Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk a little bit, or maybe quite a lot, about the Charlotte Tilbury range, some recent purchases I've made and comparing them with the very comparable Tom Ford products that are similar. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Norman Parkinson collaboration with Charlotte Tilbury, which was what I actually intended to purchase from and ended up getting nothing from that range. And so I wanted to tell you why. And also, I guess, a bit generally, because a few of you who've watched more than one of my videos will know that I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this range. Mostly up till now, kind of, well, hate's a bit strong, but reasoned dislike of the range. I haven't been terribly impressed with either the service I've received at the counters or more particularly the products that I've bought. But notwithstanding that, there's such a well merchandised range that she kind of sucks you in again and again, and did suck me in to go and look at the Norman Parkinson range because I saw the promotion photos, and there basically are a slew of products, three kind of main products, and then makeup bags and very expensive collection products that feature really gorgeous packaging with Norman Parkinson images on the front, mostly from the 70s or earlier. I wish I was clever enough with my editing to be able to insert some photographs of it. Maybe I'll put in a link below, but I guess a lot of you will have seen them. And so, although I have very mixed feelings about the Charlotte Tilbury range, and I haven't had good experiences really from any of the products I've purchased so far, and in the past I've bought bronzer, highlighter, several eye pencils, what else have I bought? The magic cream. I think that's about it that I've bought, but I've tried out the eye palettes numerous times because they look so tempting, but I've not been impressed whenever I've tested them out on the counter with the kind of texture for the price. So, as I say, I've bought in the past, not been terribly happy, and the other issue I have with them is the service at the counters. Partly it's because there's usually a real scrum around them. They're incredibly popular because the products are only sold in a few venues. It was Selfridges alone to begin with, but it is now sold in other places in London and I guess in other cities as well. But always really, really popular. They have a lot of makeup artists, in inverted commas, giving free makeovers. But I find usually they're really, really unhelpful and can be a bit dismissive. Maybe it's my paranoia. If you're an older client, that's what I kind of put it down to. So by way of example, when I went last week and picked up these products, I was particularly interested in these two eye colours that I'm going to come to in a minute, and I knew the names of the ones I wanted to look at, and the testers for these two were not out. And I asked one of the sales assistants, who was just standing there with a clipboard, were there any testers for these colours? And she kind of said, well, I don't know. They'll be around there somewhere, kind of go and look. I mean, just an extraordinary attitude for somebody who's there to help the customers. And I went away and I went back later when it was a bit quieter, and I actually was helped by a really, really nice Australian girl who was assisting there, who did go to considerable trouble to get backup testers from downstairs, and I ended up making the purchase. But that kind of attitude is, I'm afraid, all too typical. So enough of the rant already. I went to look at Norman Parkinson. I kind of had in my mind that I wanted to get one of the three compact products. Now, one of them is, and I'm going to show you here a past purchase, just for comparison terms, this kind of shaped palette, which has a shading and a highlight in. This is the old Film Star Bronze and Glow. Beautiful packaging. I think I've shown before I was extremely dissatisfied because the highlighter portion of it just cracked powdered into a billion pieces just from a couple of trips out in my handbag. I didn't even drop it or anything, just appalling. And, you know, what can I say? I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful presentation, but the products themselves. Anyway, the latest Norman Parkinson version has a beautiful enamelled type photograph on the front and seemed to be a highlighter and a bronzing product. When I actually looked at them, neither of them are powders. They are both kind of wet cream products. Well, the highlighter is slightly less so, but very sticky. And the bronzer or contour or whatever you wanted to call it was extremely dark, very, very muddy. There was no way I could get it to sheer out, so there was no way I was going to buy that. The other two products were a cream blush and a highlighter. I love highlighters. It was a powder highlighter, so I thought for sure that is one for me. Had a very pretty picture on the front, but when I tested it, swatched it, it was barely visible on the inside of my hand, which is very pale, usually shows up highlighters very, very well indeed. Just wasn't doing it for me as a product. And the blush cream was very pretty, but was very, very similar to the Tom Ford's summer blush cream that you've heard me rave and rave and rave about. Similar in tone and colour, but without the gold highlights that the Tom Ford one has. There's no doubt in my mind that the Tom Ford version is vastly superior, and there was no way I could justify buying one that was similar but inferior just for the pretty packaging. So that was the Norman Parkinson range out the window for me. However, I did end up getting two of these eye creams. Now, these are very similar to the Tom Ford eye creams, and I knew that, and that kind of put me off for a long time when they came out from getting one, but I've seen them used in tutorials, and these two colours in particular I thought were my sort of colours, and I would have a look at them and get them from comparison purposes. They're very similar to the Tom Ford creams. I've used both of them now, this one twice and this one once, so I can talk a little bit about how they pan out. I should tell you first of all, this one is called Marie Antoinette and is a very pretty warm gold. I hope you can see there. My sort of colour. I thought it would be very like, and it is very like, but not the same as Tom Ford's Platinum, which is a great favourite of mine. There you go. The Tom Ford looking a bit cooler. And it is definitely, I would say, a more subtle taupey shade on. But I like both of them, and very, very wearable colours. So that's Marie Antoinette. This one is Jean, and this is the lightest of the colours in the range. You can see there, very pretty highlighty one. I thought it would be very like Escapade, which is a Tom Ford one from a bit ago. You can see much warmer and rosier in the pot. And you can see they're not dissimilar. This time the Jean is definitely cooler than the Escapade. But again, I thought I definitely could justify having both of those. Now, the Tom Ford pots look a lot bigger, but I'm not sure. 6 grams. And these, of course, are done in fluid 0.24 fluid ounces and 2 1. So on the face of it, it's suggesting there's more product in this. It could be it's quite a bit deeper, but I'm not sure about that. The price points are, these are cheaper, £22, and the Tom Ford ones, when you can get them, I think are about £29 now. There's actually none available at the current time on any of the websites, so it'll be when there's another limited edition comes out. Now, I've worn these two, as I say, a couple of times. They are very similar. They're definitely a slightly lighter, i.e. runnier consistency than the Tom Ford. And the way that pans out on the eyelids is you don't get quite as good a wear. They do, on my eyelids, crease after about 5 to 6 hours wear, which isn't bad. I mean, they're good, but not as good as the Tom Ford ones. They perform pretty similar to the Tom Ford when you use them as a base for powder eyeshadow, which I do very often. So I did that today, and I haven't got as much creasing with this one as I did when I wore it on its own yesterday. The other thing I would say is that with the slippier texture, I find them slightly harder to work with, just slightly harder to work with, because I like to apply these with the finger rather than dirtying a brush. I guess they probably would be very much the same with a brush. And it's a little more difficult to control. You kind of need to tidy up a bit with a Q-tip. But very, very similar products. Whoops. And so, kind of up to you whether the price point justifies. I do like these, and I definitely will use them. So that slightly converted me to the Charlotte Tilbury. By the way, what's with the packaging? I mean, it's such a copy of Tom Ford, isn't it? I never know the story. I know Charlotte Tilbury does a lot of Tom Ford makeup for his runway shows and was involved in the line, but it does seem a tremendous copying effort if she's such a fan. Now, I also bought, and this is unusual for me, a mattifying powder, the Skin Perfecting Micro Powder in Fair. Unusual for me because I tend to like quite shimmery powders and I don't use ordinary mattifying, but I tested this and I quite liked very fine consistency. And I've worn this and I quite like it. It's a lot cheaper. Let me look at the receipt. Yeah, £33. Of course, it hasn't got a brush, compared with the Tom Ford version, which I have from a few years back, which I just looked up on the website, is I think £56 or £57. This, incidentally, I should tell you that this is the translucent finishing powder in Alabaster Nude. Comes with a brush, of course, but definitely not more product. And this is the one Tom Ford, well, no, two Tom Ford products I'm not that keen on. I'm not keen on that eyebrow pencil, and I'm not that keen on this, but it's partly because I don't use mattifying powders a lot. I mean, it's not a bad powder. It's definitely, I would say, I was going to say not as fine. You can see there it's pigmenting quite a lot. Let me just try again with this. Very, very similar. I do actually marginally prefer the Charlotte Tilbury one. And there's the kind of gorgeous detail on the packaging, the little star and her name. Kind of old school glamour that she does so well. So, yeah. So, notwithstanding my previous problems with Charlotte Tilbury, this is an example of the never-ending lesson that just as lines you really love can come out with an absolute bummer of a product, so lines that you're not that keen on can produce perfectly good products. These are definitely respectable dupes for the Tom Ford eye creams, but not as good. And the powder I really like so far. So let me know if any of you are Charlotte Tilbury fans or have not had good experiences, and I shall speak to you again soon. Bye for now.